it makes it to red block number 6 compared to the 5.5 of the regular one. For stage 2 of this test, it makes it to red block number 5, which is better than the score of the 4 that the regular one received. And the average score for this test, it receives a 5.5 compared to the 4.75 that the regular one received. Next up, we have the dirt incline test. So, with the acceleration and grip that it has, it rockets to the top without any hesitation, which gives it a 10 out of 10. And as for the HSW variant, it's pretty much the same thing, with a little more power, slightly faster, so same exact score here, 10 out of 10. Continuing to dirt braking, it's actually really good, which is very surprising. It stops well before the markers at the bottom, which gives it a 10 out of 10. And the HSW variant is about the same. Now, when it comes to braking downhill, the HSW brakes provide little to no benefit compared to the maxed out normal brakes because it becomes more like a game of traction and also the weight of the vehicle rather than just the full power of the brakes. Rock crawling for the monstrosity is pretty good. It mainly struggles with its lack in ground clearance, but once it gets those tires onto a rock, it just pulls really hard at almost anything you throw at it. Now, through all 3 obstacles, it unfortunately bottoms out a total of 7 times, again, due to its poor ground clearance, which is a big factor in the score. It gives it a 3 out of 10 for stage 1 of this test. However, in stage 2 of this test, which is subjectively scored, it has little to no hesitation once it finally gets a tire on top of those rocks, but it's not perfect, so it gets an 8 out of 10 for stage 2 of this test. If we take both those scores, we get an average of 5.5 out of 10 for the rock crawling test, which is pretty impressive considering the lack of ground clearance this thing has. And when it comes to the HSW variant, it performs identically. Remember that rock crawling is so again, that's the same exact average score of 5.5 out of 10. Powertrain is very good for the monstrosity. No wheel spin at all throughout the entire obstacle, which gives it a perfect 10 out of 10 for this test. And the HSW variant, again, performs identically. No wheel spin either. Again, 10 out of 10. Next up, we have the bumper clearance test. So considering the clearance of the monstrosity really isn't the best, it's surprisingly smooth which gives it relatively for this test. And of course, they just will be very going to be the same exact score because this has nothing to do with speed. So 9 out of 10 as well. And of course, HSW variant, same thing, 6 out of 10 here. High-speed stability is very good considering it's a smaller vehicle with not much ground clearance. It gets a 7 out of 10 with tax stability as a little crawler. And as to be expected, the HSW variant is exactly the same. The suspension is unaffected. Next up, we have the deep water testing. And I am thoroughly surprised how well this test performs. For stage 1 of this test, it makes it to the end, which is 10 out of 10. And in stage 2 of this test, which is the deeper side, the monstrosity is really underwater, but still somehow makes it to the end, which gives it a 10 out of 10. Very impressive. If we we take both of those scores, we get an average of 10 out of 10 for the deep water test. And for the HSW variant, it's the same thing with a bit more speed. It completes both obstacles against a 10 out of 10. And this is very impressive. Really, only the larger off-roaders are able to complete stage 2 of this test. Considering how small this thing is, it makes it the only vehicle of this size that's actually able to do that. So, very impressive. Now, something I do want to mention is that the HSW variant does offer a snorkel upgrade, whereas the regular one does not offer a snorkel upgrade. And for those of you wondering, not surprisingly, like most of the vehicles in GTA, the snorkel unfortunately does not work, and the vehicle will die if you leave it deep in water for too long. And finally, we have the dirt acceleration test. So this path is roughly a quarter-mile long. Using the handbrake launch, it takes a very quick 2 seconds per mile, which is very impressive. That gives it an 8 out of 10 for this test. And as for the HSW variant, it's of course a lot quicker, completing this test an entire second quicker, using 11 seconds per mile, which gives it a very impressive 9 out of 10 for this test, and actually makes it the fastest time ever tested for this test, being slightly faster than the old King, which was the Garage. Now, before we move on to the Wilton, here are the operability scores for both the regular and the HSW monstrosity. And you can see the scores are pretty much exactly the same throughout, the exception being the first and last obstacles, which of course benefit from the extra power that the HSW upgrades provide. And honestly, these are extremely respectable scores considering how small this vehicle is and its lower ground clearance compared to the other operators in this game. For comparison, so you can see how good the monstrosity actually is. In terms of overall score, it is the same as the which is extremely impressive. Continuing to the incline test with flat surface, the Walton does lack power and torque compared to the monstrosity, and it only makes it to the 5, which is a 5 out of 10 for stage 1 test. For stage 2 of this test, which is started it of course scores an average of 55 for the incline test. Next up, we have the dirt incline test. So with decent scores and great grip, it makes it to the top without any hesitation, which gives it a 10 out of 10. Continuing to dirt braking, which is very impressive, stopping well before the bars at the bottom, which gives it a 10 out of 10. I did not expect the Walton to have that good of brakes, but it does. Rock crawling is a where the Walton really shines. That seems to be its main strength due to its perfect wheelbase, in my opinion, and ground clearance. It surprisingly does not scrape at all through all 3 obstacles, which gives it a 10 out of 10 for stage 1. Very impressive. And for stage 2 of this test, which is subjectively scored, it goes pretty much 0 out of 10 out of 10 for this test. And of course, the average of the 2 scores here is going to be a 10 out of 10. Powertrain from the Walton is pretty good. However, we do see wheel spin from the driver's side rear wheel. And as we progress further up the obstacle, we can see some wheel spin from the passenger side front wheel. I can't give it any higher than an 8 out of 10 for this test. Bumper clearance. The Walton has excellent bumper clearance due to how high off the ground it is. It does not scrape at all, giving it a 10 out of 10 for this test. Suspension travel is good, but not the best, and the main reason for this is because of its lower ride height compared to how much it travels beyond that. So according to the markers, it gets a 5 out of 10. High-speed stability is excellent, as you can imagine, but it's not perfect compared to vehicles like the Drogger, etc. It gets a 9 out of 10 for this test. Next up, we have the motor testing. So for stage 1 of this test, it makes it to the end, which gives it a 2 out of 10. Moving on to stage 2, which is the deeper side, it unfortunately only makes it to red block number 8, which gives it an 8 out of 10 for this test, which is just wild considering the small monstrosity was able to make it across. But anyways, if we take both those scores, that gives us an average of 9 for the deep water test. And lastly, we have the dirt acceleration test. This path is roughly a quarter-mile long. Using the handbrake launch, it gets a 13-second quarter-mile, which honestly, that's pretty good considering this isn't some crazy high-speed off-roader. That gives it a 7 out of 10 for this test. And before we get to the last vehicle of this test, which is the Patel, here is the score of the Delta. So an 82.5 out of 100. I'm going to compare it to the monstrosity here. You can see how much their scores varied throughout the obstacles based on the different strengths and weaknesses that they had. But ultimately, the Walton is better overall order. Alright, and lastly, on to the Rattel. Now before we start, I want to mention that the Rattel is not a 4x4. It is actually a rear-wheel drive, so we'll keep that in mind. Anyways, starting off with the incline test, it makes it well past red block number 6, which gives it a 6.5 out of 10. For stage 2 of this test, it makes it to red block number 5. If we take both those scores, we get an average of 5.75 for this test. Next up, we have the dirt incline test. So you can see it does struggle a little bit with wheel spins if it's rear-wheel drive, but it still makes it to the top, which gives it a 10 out of 10. Continuing to dirt braking, it has excellent brakes. That gives it a 10 out of 10 for this test. Rock crawling, it does very well due to its ground clearance and torque. Only scrapes the entire test, which gives it a 9 out of 10. And for stage 2, which is subjectively scored, it doesn't really struggle at all, but in some situations, starting off with the incline test, it makes it well past red block number 6, which gives it a 6.5 out of 10. For stage 2 of this test, it makes it to red block number 5. If we take both those scores, we get an average of 5.75 for this test. Next up, we have the dirt incline test. So you can see it does struggle a little bit with wheel spins since it's rear-wheel drive, but it still makes it to the top, which gives it a 10 out of 10. Continuing to dirt, it has excellent brakes. That gives it a 10 out of 10 for this test. Rock crawling, it does very well due to its ground clearance and torque. It only scrapes the entire test, which gives it a 9 out of 10. For stage 2, which is subjectively scored, it doesn't really struggle at all, but in some situations it does struggle with this rear-wheel drive configuration, so the most I can give it here is a 9 out of 10. If we take both those scores, we get an average of a 9 out of 10 for this test. Powertrain is surprisingly really good considering it's a rear-wheel drive. We see some very slight wheel spin from the driver's side of the wheel. It's a very impressive 9 out of 10. Upper clearance is obviously no issue at all. You can literally do this straight. Suspension travel is very impressive for the Rattel. According to the numbers, it gets a 7 out of 10 for this test. And something I find pretty funny for this test, and the Desert Ray received a 9 out of 10 for this test. So the test. So the Mattel sits just below those two, which makes sense considering this is a buggy. High-speed stability is absolutely perfect. It's like the obstacles aren't even there, just really impressive. It can take one of those rating 10 out of 10 for this test. On to deep water testing. So for stage 1 of this test, it makes it to the end, which gives it a 10 out of 10. Moving on to stage 2, which is the deeper side. It unfortunately only makes it to red block number 8, which gives it an 8 out of 10 for this test. And this was the same case with the trophy truck and Desert Raid I tested a while ago, which makes sense. But anyways, if we take both stage scores, that gives us an average of 9 for the deep water test. And lastly, onto the dirt acceleration test. Using the handbrake launch, it gets a very impressive 12-second quarter mile, which gives it an 8 out of 10. And again, this matches the trophy truck and Desert Raid. I'm pretty sure you see the pattern here, but it doesn't quite meet the speed of the Jogger, or of course the HSW monstrosity. So here is the score for the Mattel, a very impressive 87.75 out of 100. Surprisingly places it right between the trophy truck and the Desert Raid. You can see how similar a lot of the obstacle results are. But anyways, here are all the 4 scores for the 3 new off-roaders so you can compare. Where not surprisingly, the Mattel does have the highest score of the 4. Also, here's the comparison from all the vehicles I've tested so far from all the different classes. You can see that the Monstrosity sits in 19th place, the HSW variant sits in 15th place, the Walton sits in 13th place, and the Rattel sits at a very impressive 3rd place. However, the Draugr from last year's Summer DLC still remains the overall king. So, are any of these new off-roaders in this DLC worth it? Well, honestly, the Monstrosity is really only useful if you have the HSW upgrade, so you have current gen. So on a normal rally-esque off-road track, yes, it will be the king for sure because of the sheer speed and handling. However, if you have a track that has very intense obstacles, you definitely don't want to pick the Monstrosity because of its lack of ground clearance. In regards to the Walton, it's a good off-roader, but it's sort of in that performance area of the car Miata, so it's not really all that worth it, especially at its price. And lastly, the Raquel. So, I mean, it's basically a reskin of the trophy truck in general states, but with a little more power. However, the downside is just the drive. One of the top 6 off-roaders minus Liberator, of course. Really don't want to Raquel. Personally, I find the Draugr if you don't already own it, and then also the HSW Monstrosity, because obviously for those types of less intense tracks it'd be useful for that, and the Draugr would be the only one to pick for the more intense off-road track. Well, that's it, guys. Hope this was helpful. Remember the playlist for all the other vehicles I've done will be down below in the comments, and also the spreadsheet and all that good stuff. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. What is up, fanatics? In this video, I'm going to be discussing my top 10 overall picks for vehicles in GTA Online in 2023. I want to clarify this is my personal opinion for top vehicles considering multiple factors including combat, defensiveness, performance, ease of use. What is up, fanatics? So this one was a highly suggested top 10 video from you guys. The top 10 forgotten cars in GTA Online. Now, obviously, this is very subjective depending on the players and what cars they use or have preferences towards. So I know for a fact there's probably going to be a handful of you guys who might use a couple of these cars from this list. It's obviously inevitable. However, this video is tailored more towards the general GTA Online community, and also cars that I rarely see anybody using GTA Online or bringing to my weekly car meets because they're well-forgotten vehicles.
God damn. That is a beautiful, beautiful wing.
You literally see them driving around their free mode all the time because we're sort of forced to. But anyways, let's get right into it. Starting off with number 10, we have the Lapidati Ferrari GT. So this car released with the Last Team Standing update in 2014. Now this one used to be available for like legendary motorcycle for about 250,000. However, this was one of the removed website cars.